If you're in the world of medical billing, you have definitely seen this one before, the CO-29 denial for untimely filing. It is hands down one of the most common and, let's be honest, frustrating denials out there. It can really feel like you've hit a wall. But what if I told you it's often totally fixable? Well, that's what we're here to do. Let's break down the exact steps to turn that denial into a payment.
So, if that CO-29 denial just landed on your desk, your first instinct might be to sigh and move it to the write-off pile. But wait, don't do that just yet. Stick with me, and we're going to walk through a really clear, actionable plan to figure out what happened and, most importantly, get that claim paid.
All right, first things first. Before we can solve any problem, we've got to understand what we're really up against. So what does a CO-29 denial actually mean?
At its heart, it's pretty simple. The insurance company is basically saying, hey, you sent this to us too late. But listen closely to the key word I used there. They believe they received it too late. That's their side of the story, but it's not automatically the truth. And our job? It's to find out if they're right.
See, this all comes down to something called the timely filing limit, or TFL for short. It's just the window of time you have to get a claim in after a patient was seen. And here's the tricky part. There is no single rule for this. One payer might give you 90 days, another might give you a whole year. It's all over the place. And that is exactly why your first move always has to be an investigation.
Okay, so let's get into the action plan. For this next part, I want you to stop thinking like a biller for a second and start thinking like a detective. Your mission is simple. Gather the facts. And to do that, you just need to ask 4 very specific questions.
Now, you might have internal cheat sheets like this, and those are great, but the absolute fastest way to get the facts you need is to just pick up the phone. A quick call to an insurance rep is how you're going to get the critical info you need to build your case. So grab a notepad and get ready to write everything down.
You see the strategy here? Each question builds on the last one. First, you're just making sure you're both talking about the same claim. Simple. Second, you get their side of the story. When do they say they got it? Third, and this is so important, you get them to state their own rule out loud. What is your official TFL? And finally, you lock it all down with a call reference number. These 4 pieces of information, they are everything.
Okay, so you've hung up the phone, you've got your notes. Now you're at a fork in the road. And the information you just gathered is going to tell you exactly which path to take. This one moment determines your entire strategy.
So it really just boils down to one of these 2 situations. In scenario 1 on the left, you look at your notes and realize, wait a minute, they received this claim within their own deadline. That means the mistake is theirs, not yours. You're heading for an appeal. But what about scenario 2? Well, they say they got it late. Now your job is to double-check your own records. If you can prove you sent it on time, guess what? You're still going to appeal. A write-off is the absolute last resort, only for when you know you were late and have no proof.
All right, let's say you did your homework and the facts are on your side. The payer made a mistake. So what now? Now it's time to build a rock-solid appeal and prove your case.
And here's the key thing to remember about appeals. This isn't about arguing or getting upset. It's way simpler. You're just professionally presenting the facts that prove you did your job correctly. You're not asking them for a favor. You are showing them the evidence. The process itself is really straightforward. First, you get the logistics, how long you have, where to send it. You should get this on that first call. Second, you gather up your proof, which we'll talk about in just a sec. Third, you send everything in. And fourth, and this is the step so many people forget, you've got to follow up. Don't just send it and hope for the best. Okay, this right here, this is the key to winning. Your proof of timely filing is the hard evidence that ends the argument. We're talking about a report from your clearinghouse or an EDI submission report, basically a digital receipt with a timestamp that shows the exact date you sent the claim. That timestamp is your silver bullet. And if you're working on a secondary claim, a copy of the primary EOB works just as well.
So as we start to wrap this up, let's zoom out. When you're dealing with this denial, or really any denial, what's the one big principle you need to remember?
You know, at the end of the day, it all comes down to being diligent. It's right there in the source material. Every account receivable case is different and needs to be dealt with carefully. There really are no shortcuts. The process we just walked through isn't a magic trick. It's a framework for doing that careful, thorough review that gets results. And that really just leaves us with one last, really important question to think about. This whole process isn't just about fixing one denial today. It's about building a smarter system for tomorrow.
So how can you take this detective-style checklist and make it a normal part of your daily workflow? How can you use it to protect your revenue and make sure these frustrating write-offs become a thing of the past? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.